Mr. President, every fall, Gallup does a poll. It's entitled Honesty and Ethics. And they began doing this poll in 1976. It's conducted every year. They've done it now every year since 1990. Mr. President, the profession identified as number one in honesty and ethics has been nurses nearly every year. There was one exception, Mr. President. In 2001, nurses were not number one. Think about 2001. What was going on? We're talking fall, November, December. It makes real sense that firefighters were named number one in 2001. But every year since then, nurses have been number one. This is a poll of about 800 adults, and they rate 23 professions. So looking at 2023's results are really interesting, Mr. President. Of course, nurses are number one. But as you go down the list, well, you'll be glad to hear this, Mr. President. College teachers are ranked number 8. That's great. Moving further down the list, lawyers and state governors rank tied at number 15 and 16. That's an interesting pairing, isn't it? Below them are business executives, insurance salesmen, and stockbrokers. They all rank together below. And under that is the category of advertising practitioners, car salespeople, and senators. Whoa, they're number 20, 21, and 22, and they're all ranked the same. Fascinating. I don't know if they mean U.S. senators or they mean us are comparable in trustworthiness and ethics with car salesmen. But why do I bring this up? I bring it up, Mr. President, because May 6th through 12th, the week we are in, is National Nurses Week. May 6th, which was Monday, was declared in 1982 by Ronald Reagan as National Recognition Day for Nurses. Today, May 8th, is School Nurses Day. They act as a liaison between the school community, families, healthcare providers, all on behalf of children's health. Sunday, the end of National Nurses Week, is Florence Nightingale's birthday. She was a British woman. She was recruited during the Crimean War to come in and organize a group of women who would work in the war hospitals. She came into those hospitals. The injured soldiers were dying left and right. It was filthy. Human excrement all over the place. No one was washing their hands. She came in and cleaned that up, and lo and behold, survival rates increased. She also was quite a statistician. She translated the mortality data into new standards for sanitation, and she was actually the first female member of the Royal Statistical Society, a nurse, Mr. President. If you go to our country, the Civil War occurred a few years after that Crimean War, sort of near the same time. Women were working in the war war hospitals at that time as well. They were exposed, of course, to wounded soldiers who had massive infections or illnesses. They were vulnerable to these illnesses themselves. The germ theory was still not clear, but the women working in those hospitals realized that the physicians were not washing their hands between patients. They were going with filthy hands, caring for the next patient. Those patients were becoming infected and dying. And the women, the nurses, began to insist that physicians wash their hands between patients. I mean, Mr. President, imagine if we weren't doing that today. Over 21,000 women served in the Union military hospitals, and a similar number were in the Confederacy hospitals, 10% of those being African American women serving in these hospitals. Clara Barton emerged on the scene about this time. She was recruited to oversee the military hospitals. She cleaned up the sanitation issues and went on to found the American Red Cross. Again, a nurse. These women were never paid for their work. Reminds me of today, of course, working conditions in massive corporate hospital networks where Working conditions are very stressful. Injuries are common, even violence in these large corporate hospitals, and few nurses are paid what they're worth, certainly don't have a solid retirement like a pension, which could take me to the New York Times today, which has an article titled, "Was the 401k a mistake? How an obscure 45-year-old tax change transformed retirement and left so many Americans out in the cold." But I digress. One nurse during the Civil War made this comment: "I have been a female nurse since a year ago last October, and only regret that I did not go in the beginning, when a mistaken humility is all that withheld me. I went in with many misgivings, and now I know that women are worth what women are worth in the hospitals. It is no light thing to hear a man say he owes you his life, and then to know that mother, wife, sister, or child bless you in their prayers." A more contemporary nurse, Mr. President, made this quote: "As a nurse, we have an opportunity to heal the mind, soul, heart, and body of our patients, their families, and ourselves. They may forget your name, but they never forget how you made them feel." I wish to all my fellow nurses, Mr. President, the recognition of today and the fields of work that they are in. They are not a commodity. They're not a day worker as corporations view them. They are a valued profession, and I wish them a happy Nurses Week. Thank you, Mr. President.